Japan is defined by its geography. It's a mountainous archipelago where buildable land is so scarce that urban spaces are packed to the absolute millimeter. Because of this extreme density, zoning laws and property lines are treated with rigid, uncompromising respect. When a group of Pakistani immigrants recently built a mosque in Tokyo without securing the proper permits, the government's response was swift. Authorities ordered the immediate demolition of the unauthorized structure. The situation quickly spiraled into a diplomatic embarrassment. Pakistan's ambassador to Japan had actually attended the mosque's opening ceremony, forcing the Pakistani government to rapidly distance itself from the project once the lack of permits came to light. The government's logic is straightforward. In a country where every square foot of real estate is spoken for, religious buildings cannot bypass the strict land use regulations that apply to every other citizen. This demolition highlights a widening gap between Japan's rigid legal system and the needs of a workforce that looks very different from the generations that preceded it. Japan is running out of people. The native population is rapidly aging and shrinking, creating an enormous vacuum in the national workforce. To keep the country functioning, Japan relies on able-bodied workers from abroad. While the native population trends downward, Japan's Muslim population diverges, jumping from 23,000 in 2019 to nearly 420,000 by 2024. This growth is driven by immigration. Workers from Pakistan, Indonesia, and Africa are arriving to answer Japan's call for labor. Despite viral online rumors, like a widely debunked video claiming Iranian clerics were converting Japanese citizens by the millions, the data shows the Japanese themselves are remaining tied to their traditional Shinto and Buddhist roots. But an imported workforce brings its own culture. This creates an immediate demand for infrastructure like mosques, which now physically clashes with Japan's limited space and strict zoning rules. Even when immigrants follow every rule, the friction remains. Consider the events in Fujisawa, a city southwest of Tokyo, which prove that legal permits do not always guarantee community acceptance. A Sri Lankan businessman legally purchased an industrial site there with the plan to build a mosque. He followed every bureaucratic step and secured the proper legal standing to build on his own land. The response was a severe public backlash. Local Japanese citizens flooded the streets to protest the legally permitted construction site. The protest signs reveal the core of the tension. They move past zoning concerns to explicitly demand an end to immigration, exposing a deep anxiety over the preservation of national identity. In this environment, strict zoning laws often function as a convenient bureaucratic tool to resist cultural shifts that the public is not yet ready to accept. Japan is facing a difficult trade-off. The economy requires foreign immigrants to avoid stagnation, yet their arrival triggers intense domestic cultural resistance. This tension is spreading across other shrimping, homogeneous East Asian economies, like South Korea and Taiwan. All these nations are struggling to balance a reliance on foreign labor with a desire to keep their native culture unchanged. This will eventually become a diplomatic issue. Muslim-majority nations are likely to press Japan on why their expatriates, who provide essential labor, face hostility when trying to establish basic religious infrastructure. Because the native population shrinks, the need for foreign workers is mathematically certain to grow. This means the number of mosques being planned will also increase. The abandoned construction site in Tokyo clearly illustrates the deep friction inherent in Japan's future. Survival requires a global workforce, but the nation has yet to determine how much of its own cultural landscape it is willing to change to accommodate them.
If you value clarity over chaos, explore more on Clear Lens X.